Let our hands overflow with your blessing.
Avinu Malkeinu Harem Keren Mishichecha.
Avinu Malkeinu, let our eyes behold the dawn of redemption.
Avinu Malkeinu Na'al Tashivenu Rekam Milfanecha.
Avinu Malkeinu, we pray, do not turn us away from you with nothing.
Avinu Malkeinu Kabel Berachamim Uvratzon Et Tefilatenu.
Malkeinu, welcome our prayer with love, accept and embrace it.
Avinu Malkeinu Aseh Imanu Lema'an Shmecha.
Malkeinu, act toward us as befits your name.
Avinu Malkeinu Aseh Lemancha Im Lo Lema'anenu.
Avinu Malkeinu, act for your sake, if not for ours.
Avinu Malkeinu Ein Lanu Melech Ele Ata.
Avinu Malkeinu, you alone are our sovereign.
Avinu Malkeinu Patach Sharei Shamayim Litfilatenu.
Malkeinu, that the gates of heaven be open to our prayer.
Avinu Malkeinu Shema Kolenu Chus V'Rachem Alenu.
Malkeinu, hear our voice, treat us with tender compassion.
Avinu Malkeinu Chonenu Va'anenu Ki Ein Banu Ma'asim Aseh Imanu Tzedaka V'Chesed V'Hoshienu.
Malkeinu, almighty and merciful, answer us with grace, for our deeds are wanting. Save us through acts of justice and love.
Avinu Malkeinu, Shema Koleinu. Avinu Malkeinu, Chatanu Lefanecha. Avinu Malkeinu, Chamol Aleinu, Ve'al Olaleinu. V'tabeinu. Avinu Malkeinu, Kol Nidre, V'cherev hara me'aleinu. Avinu Malkeinu, Kosa Umasi Yalenu. Avinu Avinu Malkeinu, Shalom, Shana Tova. Avinu Malkeinu, Shema Koleinu.
Please be seated.
Jerusalem was on fire, And by some estimates, as many as 500,000 residents were trapped in its walls. As historian Simon Montefiore tells it, some were fanatical religious zealots, some were freebooting bandits, but most were innocent families with no escape from this magnificent death trap. For 4 months, from Passover through late July in the year 70 CE, the defiant city had withstood the Roman emperor's son Titus and the soldiers at his command. But on the 8th of Av, Titus gave his 60,000 troops their orders: storm the city's crown jewel at dawn, storm Jerusalem's magnificent temple. On the same day, the Babylonians destroyed the first temple 500 years earlier. The Romans constructed massive ramps against the temple walls, but their initial assaults were repelled with ferocious resistance. Titus was running low on patience and made a fateful decision to set the temple's gates ablaze. The ornate silver-plated doors melted, and the fire spread rapidly to the temple's wooden inner sanctums. Though Titus commanded the flames to be extinguished, it was too late. The inferno exploded, and by morning, Jerusalem and its precious temple were a smoldering ruin. Putting down the rebellion once and for all, the Romans conducted a brutal purge, massacring the old and weak, taking captives and slaves, killing indiscriminately. The streets ran red, and the once grand edifices of Jerusalem were reduced to ash and rubble. Titus believed that by destroying Jerusalem, he was extinguishing the very essence of the people Israel, declaring, according to Josephus, your city, your people, and you yourselves are doomed to perish. How wrong he was. Titus didn't understand that Jewish communities throughout the Mediterranean and Near East were already taking root away from Eretz Yisrael, adapting to new host environments and beginning to blossom without a physical temple at their center. Titus's words reflect a trap that Jew haters have set for the Jewish people for millennia, from Haman of Purim lore to Hamas and Hezbollah. In the book of Esther, Haman tells King Ahasuerus, "It is not in your interest to tolerate the Jews. Let an edict be drawn for their destruction." Just a few years ago, in the summer of 2017, white supremacists descended on Charlottesville, Virginia, chanting, "Jews will not replace us." Today, Hamas and Hezbollah lay their intentions bare: death to Israel. I call these a trap because it draws us Jews into a narrative of perpetual victimhood, where we primarily see ourselves as a people besieged, our survival hanging on the whim of those who hate us. It lures us, as historian Salo Baron teaches, to have a lachrymose conception of our story, of our history, and of our present. It's a narrative that views the Jewish story simplistically as a series of tragedies, persecutions, and suffering, elevating the hardships Jews have faced throughout the centuries instead of all the celebrations and all the meaningful moments of Jewish life. If you've had a conversation with me over the past year, you may have experienced me pushing back against this lachrymose conception, even in the hardest year many of us have ever experienced as Jews. When we tell our own story through this prism, it robs us of our light, of our power. It convinces us that our existence is defined only by others' bigotry, instead of the brightness of our culture, the richness of our traditions, the holiness of our daily lives. When we fall into this trap, we make our lives small, defined by fear rather than inspired by our values and our vision for a world redeemed. We forget that while we may have enemies, our story is not simply one of survival. It is one of thriving, of building, of transforming every place we live into a source of light, wisdom, and love. Whether in Eretz Yisrael, the land of Israel, or in the diaspora across the world, Jews across all time have blossomed where they were planted and made all other Jewish communities richer and safer by doing so. The great 20th century philosopher Shimon Ravidovich explains it this way: the face of the people Israel has two profiles, Babylon and Jerusalem. This is the way it has been for more than 2.5 millennia. This is the way it shall be for some time to come. Every Jew worthy of the name is rooted in both, in a Jerusalem that is rooted in Babylon and in a Babylon that is rooted in Jerusalem. Jerusalem and Babylon are two sides of the same coin. By Jerusalem, Ravidovich writes, we mean Jerusalem as a symbol of the land of Israel in its entirety. By Babylon, we mean not only that territory that lies on the banks of the Tigris and Euphrates, but every place that is not Jerusalem. In other words, Jerusalem is a symbol of Eretz Yisrael, the land of Israel, the Jewish civilization in the land, and all the Jews living there. Babylon, on the other hand, represents all the lands where Jews live around the world. Ravidovich first published Yerushalayim v'Bavel, Jerusalem and Babylon, in 1957, just a few years into renewed Jewish autonomy in our ancestral homeland. Within the Zionist establishment, there was this idea of negating the diaspora, that all Jews in the world should move to Israel, and any that stayed in the diaspora were naive. While some in the diaspora did choose to make Aliyah, many reacted negatively to being told what to do. Jews. They reacted negatively that they were in danger and should immediately uproot their Jewish communities to move to a foreign land. And this is even after the Holocaust. Ravidovich stood up to this binary and said, stop. This isn't an either-or game. We are two sides of one coin. We, the Jewish people, have existed with two centers of Jewish life for millennia. Yerushalayim v'Bavel, Jerusalem and Babylon. This is a fact. And it's a fact that I believe strengthens the Jewish people. Having strong Jewish communities in Eretz Yisrael and in the diaspora is a key element of Jewish continuity and survival. But it also raises the question, what is the responsibility of Jews in Jerusalem to Jews in Babylon? And what is the responsibility of Jews in Babylon to Jews in Jerusalem? A few months before the Hamas attacks, Israeli journalist Anshel Pfeffer took a very unique trip to South America with a group of Israeli archaeologists tasked with preparing a preservation plan for Judenschwane, a place I had never heard of. Let me pause this. Have any of you heard of this place? Yeah? Oh my gosh, amazing. Judenschwane is Dutch for the Jewish savannah, if you didn't get that. It was a thriving Jewish colony in the jungles of Suriname that for more than 100 years, spanning the 18th and 19th centuries, was the only place where Jews enjoyed self-rule between the fall of the Hasmonean kingdom in 37 BCE to the birth of the state of Israel in 1948. The Jews who settled there were part of a wave of refugees fleeing the expulsions from Spain and Portugal, seeking safe havens wherever they could. They found an unexpected opportunity in Suriname under Anglican English rule, where by 1665, Jews were legally on par with all other colonists. By the early 18th century, the Jewish community was responsible for more than half of the sugar plantations in Suriname, spanning hundreds of square miles. The Jews there had their own militia, built synagogues and schools, and took their boats up the river to gather in their regional capital for Shabbat and holidays. They thrived economically and socially. Unfortunately, their golden era was fleeting, and despite its early prosperity, the community's self-sustenance proved fragile. After years of declining economic success, a devastating fire in 1835 delivered the final blow. The last families left, and the jungle slowly reclaimed the once thriving Jewish community. In reflecting on his trip after the attacks of October 7th and the challenging year that followed, Pfeffer wondered, what does it take? What does a Jewish community need in order to survive and thrive in hostile conditions? What kind of support must it have from Jews elsewhere? What level of coexistence with the neighboring cultures and communities is necessary for self-preservation? He says that Judenschwana should feature collectively in our Jewish memory. It's an urgent reminder that maintaining Jewish autonomy has never been an easy task, which is why autonomous Jewish communities have been so rare in history. To guarantee their viability, they must adapt to changing times. But above all, self-sustainment is never enough. If there is to be Jewish autonomy anywhere, it needs the support of Jews everywhere. Pfeffer's reflections underscore a vital truth for us in 2024. Jewish survival is not just about the strength of a single community, but about the network of strong, thriving Jewish communities throughout the world. While Judenschwana achieved a remarkable level of independence, it ultimately needed the support and solidarity of Jews beyond its borders that it did not receive. Autonomy anywhere requires the support of Jews everywhere. The lesson is not that Jewish communities require a one-directional benefactor to survive. I think the lesson for us is twofold. First, Jews in both Jerusalem and across the world need to invest heavily in their own communities. They need to build agile, adaptive, thriving communities that are first and foremost for themselves, for you. Ravidovich drives this home. He writes that this is no time to canonize Torah, but to reopen it in the light of the experiences we have acquired in all of our wanderings from country to country, nation to nation, era to era. He writes, I should urge Israel to pump fresh blood into its veins, to place new emphasis upon the process of the development of Judaism and the evolution of a living community meeting the challenges it has faced in its historic struggles. Second, we diaspora Jews in Babylon must invest in Jews in Jerusalem. And Israeli Jews in Jerusalem must invest in Jews in Babylon. Our relationship is symbiotic, but only if we put the effort in. Before October 7th, the gulf between Babylon and Jerusalem was growing, nearing a point that seemed unbridgeable to many. The horrors we experienced in 5784 were a wake-up call for all of Klal Yisrael, all of the worldwide Jewish community. The terrorist attacks on Simchat Torah awoke a worldwide Jewish consciousness and brought it to the fore. We understood that by isolating Jerusalem from Babylon and vice versa, by not concerning ourselves with the fate of the other, we inadvertently weakened the entire people Israel. We cannot ever, ever let that happen again. Titus could not have been more wrong when he quipped, your city, your people, and you yourselves are doomed to perish. Ravidovich responded to his cynicism, saying, Babylon laughed in the face of the destroyer. The sacred capital was burned to the ground, but the seed of Abraham and Sarah, Isaac and Rebekah, Jacob and Rachel and Leah lived on. They recognized the difference between being struck a heavy blow and being struck a mortal blow. There's a midrash Ravidovich uses to deepen his point. The rabbis struggle with Psalm 79, which begins, a hymn of Asaph. O God, the nations have invaded your domain. The rabbis of the midrash ask, why doesn't the psalm begin the weeping of Asaph, the wailing of Asaph, the lamentation of Asaph? Why? How could it be a mizmor le'Asaph, a psalm of Asaph, a hymn of Asaph? The Holy Blessed One has caused temple and sanctuary to be destroyed, and you, Asaph, sit singing a hymn. Asaph replies to them, I sing a hymn because the wrath of the Holy Blessed One was poured out on the wood and stone, and not upon Israel. What Asaph understood and what Titus couldn't grasp is that Rome struck a heavy blow to Jerusalem, but could never strike a mortal blow to the people Israel. So too, as we turn to a new year in 5785, we must recognize that the Jew haters of our day wreaked havoc on Jews across the world. They murdered our brothers and sisters in Jerusalem, have brought the scourge of anti-Semitism to our very doorstep in Babylon, and made our year in both centers of Jewish life incredibly difficult. But the spirit, the resiliency, the determination, the regeneration of Israel is impossible to stomp out. Ravidovich concludes that the way of Jerusalem and Babylon is the way of Israel in its whole. It is the master highway that connects all those routes we have traveled from the time that Abraham went forth from the land of his birth to the days of his descendants returning to the land. The Jewish thinker in our time must help pave the way of Babylon and Jerusalem for our generation and for generations to come. May this be our work of 5785. Investing deeply in our Jewish community and the Jewish communities of Babylon. Anywhere you travel this year, Mexico, Aruba, England, Australia, the Holy Mecca, West Palm Beach, anywhere there's a synagogue, I encourage you to find it. Seek it out wherever you go. Spend a Friday night with the Jews there. Strengthen them with your presence. Draw a new line of connection from our community in Santa Monica to the many Jewish communities we will travel to throughout the year. At the same time, we must work to ensure that Jerusalem, our Jewish family in the land of Israel, and the beautiful communities they've built continue to flourish. We have to make sure we continue to support the Israelis in our lives. We have to get trips to Israel on our calendars, or talk to me so we can get a community mission off the ground. We have to donate to Israeli charities that speak to our values. We have to strengthen Jerusalem with our love. As we enter 5785, may we commit ourselves to the sacred work of Jerusalem and Babylon, to investing deeply in our community at Beshir Shalom and Jewish life in Los Angeles, to strengthening the ties between our Jewish family in Israel and Jewish communities in the diaspora, and to build new bridges of connection from Santa Monica to Jewish communities around the world. This is how the Jewish people endure, not just as victims of history, but as creators of a thriving future for Jews and for all who live alongside us. Gemar Chatima Tova, may we be inscribed for a year of renewed connection to each other and to Jews around the world. Here's another picture. Did you enjoy the picture enough? You ready? I was just, no, yeah, you. You come on up. Just giving you a minute, because this picture you wanted to enjoy. So, but now my great honor and pleasure to invite up our VP of Membership, Aaron Ben Yehuda, for a few words.
Tells me what to do. Sorry, it's Jody's. Hello, everyone. It's so nice to see all of you sinners. Based on everything that I heard tonight, it's obvious that we have a lot of work to do on ourselves. I think it's important that we're honest about it. I'm supposed to be here to tell you my Beshir Shalom story. When Al Corey, our board president, voluntold me to talk to you tonight, it made me nervous. I guess you could say I was rejoicing and trembling. This is the highest of the high holidays. And I feel better suited to address you during one of the low holidays. You know, those holidays that don't mean anything, like Lag BaOmer. I mean, what's that even about? Nobody knows. But here I am, so here goes. If you would have asked me when I was a single young adult if I wanted to join a temple, my response would have been, no, thank you. Just so busy, so busy watching reruns of Law and Order. I did spend a significant chunk of my 20s and early 30s watching Law and Order reruns. Now, to be fair to my younger self, there are about 100 seasons of Law and Order. if you count this, if you count the spin-offs from the original. So you could see why I was so busy. But then I met Marlene, and she encouraged me to join her for a service at Beshir Shalom. She had gone to a singles event or two, hoping to snag a Jewish stud muffin. Lucky for me, she didn't make a love connection, but she did make a lasting and meaningful connection with the temple. She told me that she liked the vibe. So flash forward 20 plus years, and we've experienced countless memorable moments as temple members over the years. Moments of joy, moments of grief, and these moments were made more memorable because we had a place of belonging, a community that supported us. And one of the most memorable moments is also one of the most recent, when our son Joshua became a bar mitzvah last month. It was a fabulous ceremony. I mean, if you don't know already, Rabbi Alex and Eitan are like the kung fu masters of bar mitzvahs. And Rabbi Neil, because of our long history together, was kind enough to join them and bring his sweet, soulful music. It was a memory that we will cherish for the rest of our lives. And that vibe that drew Marlene way back when, that's still very much what keeps us here. And that's true, even though the temple has changed over the years, it's evolved, and it continues to evolve. Because we're always looking for new and better ways to serve you, our members, and to attract new ones. And that's the motivation behind our upcoming listening campaign. We want you to have a voice in what goes on here. This is your community. You should be heard, and we're here, as always, to listen. And we're starting off a campaign with 7 focus groups: early childhood parents, religious school parents, teens, adult ed participants, social action volunteers, attendees of Wine, Women, and Wisdom, and what we call the classics crowd, those of you who weren't born yesterday. If you belong to any of them, I encourage you to sign up to be part of a focus group, your focus group. And we have sign-up sheets out in the front. Now's the part of my spiel where I make a fundraising pitch. And I don't enjoy asking for money, but it's important. I've sat at board meetings where we talk about exciting new ways to engage with you, and too often we end up having a sobering conversation about what we can afford to do. And I'm getting tired of being sober. So unless you know a Jewish billionaire who on the West Side who's looking to join a small temple community, each of us should try to give what feels good. Your contribution will help in so many ways. Just one example, we have an amazing project, a Torah restoration project. We had the honor of being custodians of a Holocaust Torah. It was one of the Torahs that was collected in Prague from the synagogues that were destroyed in the area. And it was gifted to us decades ago by Toby's grandma, Rabbi Neil's wife, if you don't know Toby. I'm told Grandma Ray had a tenacious love of Judaism, and I love the way she expressed that tenacity. But after so many years, the Torah needs a lot of work to return to its original glory. It's expensive to fix Torahs. I don't know if you know that. It's not just, Scotch tape and Elmer's glue and a Sharpie. I mean, it's a whole thing. So whether you're especially religious or like me, prefer their Judaism on the light side, the Torah is an important part of our history, not just the history of our congregation, but our people. And it's especially timely. We just mourned the anniversary of October 7th, and it demonstrates, if our Torah refurbishing demonstrates to the perpetrators of the massacre and all the other haters that we're strong, we're steadfast, and we're resilient in the face of all the horrors that have befallen us. And coincidentally, the temple is also celebrating its second bar mitzvah. It's turning 83. For those of you who don't know, according to the Psalms, and obviously I didn't know this, someone told me, a full life is 70 years old. So when you reach that milestone, you get a do-over. So at 33, you become a bar mitzvah again. What did I say? 83. So I'm sure my son would not be thrilled about having to learn another Dvar Torah. I'm told Kirk Douglas, though, had a second bar mitzvah at 83, and we will too. Anyway, all good reasons to donate to the Torah Restoration Project. So please give whatever you can to our community to help us stay strong and healthy. Now, if you'll excuse me, I need to go sit down and beg forgiveness for this fakakta speech. Should I do announcements?
I just want to give you a hug.
Should I do announcements?
Hey, sure.
I saw some of you brought food donations. That's awesome. But tomorrow you still have time. Please bring them tomorrow. 9:30 we have services and K through 6 programming. 12:30 film screening and discussion. 1:30 sermon discussion. 2 p.m. family services. 4 p.m. afternoon Isker and Nihila. And I also want to thank everyone who made these services so special. Obviously, Rabbi Alex and Eitan, and Rabbi Neil. And we also had Shacha with her beautiful Israeli voice. I don't see, it's hard for me to feel the beauty of Israel with all that's going on, but your voice helps me remember. And Brandon, I know you're a team with Shacha. I love it. And then we had our wonderful choir. I see Ari, Susan. I also saw Nancy, and I want to get you guys also some love. Tuzi, Kyla, Adrian, and I've got one more. Daniel? Ricardo. I'm sorry, Ricardo. Ricardo. Thank you, Ricardo. And of course, Matten. Where's Matt? There he is. He took over for his sister Kimmy, who's now in medical school. Whatever their parents, Marjan and David, are doing to raise their kids, it's working.
If you want to join our Lag BaOmer committee, you can talk to Aaron. There was a plague that lifted, so we have bonfires. I don't know. I don't get it either. On page 116 in our Machzor, you will find our Aleinu. As we begin our concluding prayers, please rise.
עלינו לשבח לאדון הכל, לתת גדולה ליוצר ראשית, שלא עשנו כגויי הארצות, ולא שמנו כמשפחות האדמה, שלא שם חלקנו כהם, וגורלנו ככל המונם, ואנחנו קוראים ומשתחווים לפני מלך מלכי המלכים, הקדוש ברוך הוא, שהוא נוטה שמיים ויוסד הארץ, ומושב עיקרו בשמיים ממעל, ושכינתו זו בגובהי מרומים, הוא אלוהינו אין עוד. אמת מלכנו אפס זולתו, ככתוב בתורתו, וידעת היום והשבות אל לבבך, כי אדוני הוא האלוהים, בשמיים ממעל, ועל הארץ מתחת אין עוד. ונאמר והיה אדוני למלך על כל הארץ, ביום ההוא יהיה אדוני אחד, ושמו אחד.
Our thoughts turn to loved ones whom death has taken from us in recent days, and those who died at this season in years past. Our hearts open as well to the wider circles of loss in our community and wherever grief touches the human family. Since it is Shabbat, we take a moment to offer any names of people we are thinking of this Shabbat and this Yom Kippur. Zichronam Livracha, may their memories be a blessing in this new year and always. We join together in the words of Kadisha Tome 122. Yitgadal v'yitkadash shemei rabbah, bi'alma divrach hirutei v'yamlich malchutei, b'chayechon v'yomechon uv'chaye dechol beit Yisrael, ba'agala uv'izman kari v'imru. Yehei shemei rabbah mivarach le'alam u'lalamei almaya, yitbarach v'yishtabach v'yitpa'ar v'yitramam v'yitnaseh, v'yitadar v'yitaleh v'yithalal, shemei dekudsha brichu, La'ela ula'ela min kol birchata v'shirata, tushbechata v'nechemata, ta'amiran bi'alma v'imru. Yehei Shlama Rabba Min Shemaya V'chaim Aleinu Ve'al Kol Yisrael V'imru. Yosei Shalom Bimromav Hu Ya'aseh Shalom Aleinu Ve'al Kol Yisrael Ve'al Kol Yoshvei Tevel V'imru. May the source of peace bestow peace on all who mourn, and may we be a source of comfort to all who are bereaved. And together we say, Amen. We conclude this evening with Adon Olam, page 126.
אדון עולם אשר מלך בטרם כל יציר נברא, לעת נעשה וחפצו כל, אזי מלך שמו נקרא. אחרי ככלות הכל, לבדו ימלוך נורא, והוא היה והוא הווה, והוא יהיה בתפארה. אדון עולם אשר מלך בטרם כל יציר נברא, לעת נעשה בחפצו, אזי מלך שמו נקרא. ואחרי ככלות הכל, לבדו ימלוך נורא, והוא היה והוא הווה, והוא יהיה בתפארה. הוא אחד ואין שני, להמשילו, להכבירה, בלי ראשית בלי תכלית, לא העוז והמשרה. והוא אלי וחי גואלי וצור חבלי בעת צרה, והוא ניסי ומנוס, ונקוסי ביום אקרא. אדון עולם אשר מלך בטרם כל יציר נברא, לעת נעשה בחפצו, אזי מלך שמו נקרא. ואחרי ככלות הכל, לבדו ימלוך נורא, והוא היה והוא יהיה בתפארה. בידו הפקיד רוחי, ועת אישן לאהיה, ועם רוחי גבייתי, אדוני לי ולא אירא. בידו הפקיד רוחי, ועת אישן לאהיה, ועם גבייתי, אדוני לי ולא אירא. אדון עולם אשר מלך בטרם כל יציר נברא, לעת נעשה בחפצו, אזי מלך שמו נקרא. ואחרי ככלות הכל, לבדו ימלוך נורא, והוא היה והוא יהיה בתפארה.
Shana Tova, Gemar Chatima Tova. We'll see you in the morning.